character. We have too much information out there that is not being filtered through moral filters. So this knowledge is being used for really deleterious means that end up harming human beings. And then we have politics without principle. Too often we're concerned with the interests of the state and not with the principles upon which the state is based. America has certain principles. The fact that we have torture in Guantanamo Bay, you know, the fact that we've had waterboarding and these things, this is against everything that I ever learned about as a child studying civics and what America was about. But when you use expediency and throw away your principles and no longer use those principles, well, this is what happens. And then you end up, like Nietzsche said, beware. In trying to destroy the monster, that you become a monster yourself. So we have politics without principle. We have also, we have science without humanity. We have most of our scientists today, the most brilliant minds on the planet, are working in defense industries, building better ways to kill people. You know, drones. So we're not, I mean, I was, and I know that you've been there as well. I sat next to a lady in Davos who was, she had a company that made robots, and they were doing research for the Pentagon. I said, so when are we going to have wars where nobody gets killed? And she said, well, first we're going to have wars where only one side gets killed. Right? So they're working on drones and robots to more effectively kill people. And those scientists, instead of working on things like vaccines for malaria, developing, we're using some of the best resources that we have intellectually in areas that are, to me, odious and hard to believe that in the 21st century that this is still a major source of, I'm coming to an end, it's still a major source of problems. And he also said we have religion without sacrifice. And I, you know, to reiterate what was said earlier, to me, religion, the danger of religion is the lack of religion. It's religious people that have not really absorbed religion. The highest maqam in Islam is called khalla. The Prophet said he was khalil. He was khalil. Khalil is when the religion permeates every cell of your body. And this is what Swift said so beautifully. We have just enough religion to hate one another, but not enough to love one another. And I think that gets to the real root of the problem. So I think that religion is actually, we need more religion. We don't need less religion, but we need enlightened religion. We need to recognize religious leaders. We're often, we arrogate to ourselves the mind of God, all too often, to where we think we're speaking on behalf of God. I'm speaking on behalf of my understanding of what my revelation says, but I'm filtering that through Northern California family experience, a Jesuit education, and then a lot of weird reading like Bob Dylan poetry and things like that. So, but I just will end with a quote from, not Bob Dylan, but from the Quran. The Quran says, and I'll recite it, it's Ramadan, I'm fasting, so if I pass out or anything like that, it's just sugar problems. Yeah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله لا يستحيي أن يضرب ما بعوضة فما فوقها صدق الله مولانا العظيم. This verse says, God is not ashamed to use as an analogy the mosquito. Now I'd just like to recite the commentary of that, which was by a famous Egyptian commentary of the Quran quite some time ago. He says here that the mosquito, the Quran mentions the mosquito because it has a chapter called the ant, a chapter called the bee, and a chapter called the spider. And so the Arabs said, why is God talking about all these insignificant little creatures? We now know the importance of bees. Without them, we don't eat. Right? We know the importance of spiders and their control of major ecosystems through flies and other things. And we know also that after humans, the most significant social organization is in the ant dominion. So they're quite extraordinary. But it says here, so God says, we're not ashamed to use even the mosquito. And he says the mosquito is a little bug that doesn't smell nice. He said it's very, very short. It's ajib, which means like amazing in its creation. It has 6 legs. It has 4 wings. It has a very long nose, snout-like, and it has a little tail. It is the weakest of creatures, and yet it can kill the greatest of creatures. And in that is a great metaphor. It is also reported that the great tyrant Nimrod died of malaria. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, today's discussion is going to break into 3 parts. The first section we'll be focusing on is what young people can do to help us reach the Millennium Development Goals, and young people of the various faiths, that is. The second section will be what the barriers are, why more young people aren't getting involved, and why young people don't feel necessarily confident enough to be able to express their religious and spiritual beliefs. And then the third section is a call to action, what we can all do to help us achieve these goals. Now, we have various people asking questions, people from the audience, and then, like I say, we have thousands of people who are watching us online, on MySpace and various other internet sites. So I'll be taking some questions off the internet as well. But our first question comes to us from Sonia Sonny. Sonia, you there? Where are you? Hello. You want to stand up? Don't be shy.
I'm currently a public health student at the University of Southern California. My Hindu upbringing and deep interest in spirituality have shaped my goals in becoming a future pediatrician to work in the developing world. At a time in history where evidence-based technical solutions to global crises are prioritized, how can my generation of future leaders address issues such as poverty alleviation and global health crises through the lens of spirituality and faith? How can we work towards a paradigm shift by embracing spiritual development as much as we value economic and technological development?
Thank you. Celine, would you answer that first?
Thank you for your question. That's a tremendous question. It's a tremendous question. We probably could, spend hours just on that. But thank you for it, and thank you for the work that you're doing. I would say, I'm 34, so I always say I consider myself a youth, depending on who's in the room. In this room, maybe I'm an elder, but 24, okay. But I'm always incredibly impressed with what young people are doing right now. So I often say, definitely look to your elders for models and examples. But oftentimes, you go on MySpace or Facebook or, Google blogs, and you find young people who are doing extraordinary things, who don't see the barriers that even, I went to college, and I remember when email came online. And there's a way that we're connected now that we weren't connected before. So I actually find many young people an inspiring example because they're doing so many things and are forward-thinking and don't have the same barriers that I see older generations with.
Actually, I'd like to suggest something very simple and practical that's connected with the foundation that at least some young people can do. Because one of the things my foundation is starting is something called the Faith Acts Fellows Program. And that is going to take a certain number of young people who apply to come on the program, and we are going to support them. They will go and get an induction course in London, and then they will go to Africa. They will actually see firsthand what are the problems there, not just in respect of malaria, but in respect of the other Millennium Development Goals. And then those young people will go back to their faith communities in their respective countries, and they will try to reach as many other people as they can, and we'll support them for a period of 10 months altogether, and 8 months of that will be spent actually going around, talking to people. We're putting together a whole toolkit program for them so they can show people exactly how you can get involved in trying to act on not just the anti-malaria campaign, but other parts of the Millennium Development Goals. And it will be a great way for young people to